Hi everybody, thank you for coming. My name is Dave Neckars. I'm the Green Party of Manitoba candidate for Wolseley in the upcoming election. And we're here today to talk about poverty and the guaranteed annual income. Guaranteed annual income has been an idea that the Greens have been supporting since 2005. And other organizations, including poverty organizations, have been promoting this idea as well as a solution to the increasing poverty we're seeing in Manitoba. So I'm going to introduce James Beddome, the leader of the Green Party of Manitoba, to talk more about this. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm super excited to be here with our supporters. Dave Vickers, our candidate in Wolseley, Kelly Millen-Enns, our candidate in St. Vital, Bob Krull, our candidate in Tuxedo, Albertine Spence, our candidate in Point Douglas, and our policy chair, Harvey Stevens, also in the background, had a lot to do with this policy. So we're extremely excited to be kicking off the 2016 election campaign. This is going to be a historic election, and it's an election where I predict we're going to elect 1, 2, maybe 3, 4 Greens. And I think hopefully we'll be holding the balance of power, and we're going to be able to actually focus the parties in Manitoba onto solutions, because they're focused on headlines and not on solutions. And today, we're putting out our first major proposal of the election campaign. And that proposal, as Dave said, is the idea of a guaranteed annual income. Not just a pilot project, but actually implementing it across Manitoba. So we've done the math. We've studied out these numbers, and we figure we can deliver up to $6,300 for a single adult. And additionally to that, this will cost about $1.4 billion, and we're going to fund that by a reallocation of existing tax credits. The benefit amount will be based on family size. So the $6,300 I gave you is based on a single individual, and different, if you have multiple members in your household, the amounts would be increased accordingly. You can take a look at our press release and have the exact numbers at your ready. But by eliminating selected non-refundable and refundable tax credits and provincial income-tested benefits, we will be able to keep tax rates exactly the same while also cutting poverty rates nearly in half. These are unprecedented numbers, and numbers that I ask any other party to consider challenging and meeting. If any other party out there has a plan to cut poverty in half, then let them show it. But right now, we're showing our plan to cut poverty in half. Beyond that, it's going to simplify the welfare system, because it will be taken into account for income and employment assistance, also known as welfare recipients. We'd have about an 18% reduction in caseload, saving about $130 million in administrative costs and other costs that will be refunded back into our guaranteed annual income. Now, during the last provincial leaders debate, I had the opportunity to question Premier Selinger about why he hadn't done more on poverty. And here we are 4 years later, and poverty hasn't gotten better, it has gotten worse. Despite the provincial government investing in poverty reduction strategies like All Aboard, since 2008 there are nearly 20,000 Manitobans, 20,000 more Manitobans who are living below the low-income cutoff line. Clearly, something more needs to be done. Our modest GAI proposal, we feel, is a solution. One of the things that it does is it deals with tax credits. Over the past number of decades, we've seen numerous introductions of small, tiny tax credits. But here's the problem with tax credits. Because we have a progressive taxation system, tax credits are necessarily as regressive as the tax system is progressive. Moreover, often they're ineffectual. A few dollars for kids in their sports programs doesn't really make much of a meaningful impact. What we're talking about will make a meaningful impact. We're talking about 22% increase in the income of those living below the low-income cutoff line. We're talking about a 1 to 2% loss in disposable income for higher income earners. We will admit that by the removal of these regressive tax credits. However, I want to stress that addressing poverty saves money. We had an experiment in Manitoba, and I'm really proud I mentioned our policy chair, Harvey Stevens. Harvey Stevens worked on the Mincome project in Manitoba, which was a guaranteed annual income experiment that was held in Manitoba from about 1973 to 1976. And they studied the impact of what would be the impact of providing a family with a guaranteed income. Unfortunately, that pilot project was done for 3 years, And then they canceled it, they shelved all the data, and we never followed up with it until decades later. And that would be my worry about the proposal to do just another pilot project. We may just have another pilot project where we don't necessarily see any actual implementation of it. But what do we know from the MAINCOM? Well, we know that researchers such as Dr. Evelyn Forget have looked at the results afterwards. They found an 8.5% reduction in hospital visits. 8.5% reduction in hospital visits. Much higher rates of graduation for those that were receiving the benefits. And in follow-up studies, they found that they're more likely to be working. So once again, I want to come back to the question, yes, for some higher income earners, it might make a difference in your disposable income, but we will be saving untold billions of dollars in health, justice, and other social services costs. And it's for that reason that we think our guaranteed annual income plan, it's good for those stuck in poverty, but it's also good for taxpayers alike. Because by replacing an ineffective patchwork of programs and tax cuts with a GAI, we will reverse the rising tide of poverty in Manitoba. This will bring an 18% reduction in caseloads, $130 million in savings, and at the same time, reduce spending broadly. I think it's time we implement this, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.